Hi, Peter Howes, Vigortransformations. So part 4 of today's workout. I facilitated the movement through my rhomboids, my traps, my shoulders. And now what I'm going to do is kind of get in with the percussion therapy. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through today what I would do. I'm trying this on a low volume. Round the shoulder out a little bit, get into that pec region. And again, you're kind of just looking for what is tight, okay? Like I noticed in the video, my shoulder's just not moving the way I wanted to. So for me, it might be a little bit more up here. But I definitely know, again, that this slowness is going to come from here. This is trying to pull me in, even though I'm moving out. Same thing with kind of the lat area here. This would also be helpful for people with kind of a kyphosis video that I did earlier and talking about it. Because kind of when fixing posture or fixing anything, we need to facilitate the movement of the muscle tissue or the fascia in general. The fascia doesn't really care too much about muscles. It goes over them, and it carries all our kind of sensory input, output information of kind of what's happening. And I realize all too often people are just way too tight. And it's hard to teach suppleness, I guess, or flexibility. And when we're just kind of doing traditional stretching, like I kind of did with my warm-up today, I'm only getting to the end point, okay? So I'm not getting that tissue to loosen. And then I realize after we exercise, what's happening? Everything's tight. That's why we kind of get sore and whatnot. Some of that's the onset muscle fatigue syndrome, but think about it. Your muscles are getting tight. Why do you think you feel tight the next day after you work out, right? The muscles are getting tight. So we need to start kind of, kind of being more like an athlete here and thinking of what we should be doing. And nowadays, these kind of devices are cheap enough and out there enough to start doing this. I know there are some people out there kind of maybe doing some videos with this, but I never notice a whole lot. But the other part to it is, all too often we're kind of doing too much, or we're trying to do too much too fast. So I might just kind of today even just focus on this particular area to loosen up the tissue to get better movement. Well, now I can kind of notice, oh yeah, see that tissue's moving. Okay, some of you might be maybe under here. And again, I'm just going to sit there and kind of hold it. And I found this one to be the most effective in terms of what can be done, because I can kind of pinpoint where I need it to be. But you can see the vibrations. They're kind of radiating outwards. And all too often, kind of what's happening is our lats are getting stuck, among other muscles, but they're just too tight. So our body can't move the way we want to, and that's what's kind of really hindering us the most. And that's why I spent so much time trying to understand this and figure this out and figure out how we can really start to kind of make a difference. Because everybody's, even myself included, was kind of doing the same thing for years, thinking it was going to change, meaning kind of just throwing more and more exercise at every problem and not really understanding what's happening deep underneath that skin. All too often we're looking at the superficial layers and what the muscles are supposed to be doing. We're not looking at what they are doing, okay? We're just assuming because this movement's happening, X, Y, and Z is working. And I know all too often, and I've been studying this for years, you look at somebody's movement patterns, you can tell those muscles are not doing their job. And it's just too hard to force your adductors to do what they're supposed to do if the hip complex can't move the way it's supposed to. And if your glutes are supposedly, weak, how do you strengthen them? Like, you can't strengthen something that's just so tight. It's just impossible. It's like, trying to make a rock bigger. And that's kind of almost what you end up doing when you're doing some of these things. I realize is you're just making the scar tissue bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're not realizing good, healthy fascia or muscle tissue is really kind of big and supple, as opposed to, again, I can take a tissue and make it really tight, and it still weighs the same. It's still there. It's just not providing enough movement pattern or flow through the movements. So what I would, I'm noticing kind of again here that lat is kind of really a good spot for me today. Now I suggest, the more you can do this, the better. But if you work this around your workouts, you're going to really start to see a significant kind of difference. Because again, think about it, the muscle is just moving, blood flow's going to that area, and now I'm gonna kind of target that particular area to loosen up any of the deep fascia layers that I need to, because again, a lot of times we're just working that superficial layer or the tissue that's still kind of moving. I might kind of stretch it across. Okay, for those who've got a TRX, again, great to get up in here. Okay, any of these places. Again, the more you do it, the better. This is going to help shoulder injury. I had a guy in here the other day, was doing something, shoulder was bothering him. I got him into this position, kind of facilitated some release through the tissue here. Because again, we want to stretch when we're doing this. And that's what I've noticed nobody else is doing, is putting us into stretches and then using this. And that's kind of the best way to speed up or facilitate anything, is kind of, again, these big stretches and working that tissue. So if I did upper body today, I'm going to target here, here, and up in kind of that trap region. Okay, and come here. Again, I might stretch that out. You can feel that already dropping. And then again, if I have time, which I know I will have time, but if you have time, I would do it again later in the day. It's best done right after exercise, in my opinion. The tissue is the most malleable, but again, anytime after, it's still moving. You could maybe, if I was doing lower, I might work this first and then do my lower body and then hit my lower body after. But the percussion therapy is kind of the way of the future, in my opinion. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.